You could leave this life right now. That sentence is not meant to scare you, but to raise a more complex question. If today were your last day, would you still keep delaying and chasing meaningless things the way you are now? We think we have plenty of time, and that's precisely why we waste it. In this video, through the lens of Stoic philosophy and 7 lessons from Marcus Aurelius, you will be challenged to rethink how you live, love, and spend each day of your life. You could leave this life right now. It sounds cold, but for Marcus Aurelius, it was not a curse. It was a wake-up call. We often live as if we had endless tomorrows, countless chances to fix things, to love, to start over. It is precisely the illusion that there is still plenty of time that makes us squander the time we have. Stoicism does not ask us to sit there being afraid of death. It asks us to look straight at death so we can cherish every single day we are still alive. When you truly understand that you could disappear at any moment, many things suddenly become lighter. Reputation, the thing you strain to protect, polish, and prove to others, suddenly doesn't seem that important anymore. All those arguments about who's right or wrong, who's more moral, the endless status updates, the harsh attacks, they start to feel exhausting and pointless. Because if this were your last day, would you really want to spend it arguing on the internet or holding the hand of someone you love? From a Stoic perspective, the question shifts from, what does it mean to be a good person to, right now, am I acting like a good person? Not through grand moral declarations, but through the most minor things. How do you speak to the people closest to you? Do you truly listen when someone needs you? Are you using your day to build or to destroy, to be grateful or to complain? Awareness of death does not darken your life. On the contrary, it makes each moment brighter. You start to notice the look in someone's eyes, a simple meal, an ordinary conversation. Any of these could be the last time. And when anything could be the last time, you naturally live more carefully, more kindly, and less superficially. Stoicism doesn't tell us to fear death, nor does it tell us to avoid it. It reminds us death is certain. The real question is, from now until that moment, how will you live? When you let that question lead the way, you stop chasing illusions and start living like someone who knows they have no right to waste even a single day. Once you truly understand that you can leave this life at any moment, a very natural next question appears. Each morning when I wake up, how do I use this gift called one more day to live? Here, Marcus Aurelius shows us another lesson. Incredibly ordinary, yet brutally honest. How an emperor treated his own bed. Marcus could have stayed wrapped in warm blankets, ruling an empire with just a few words. No one would have blamed him for choosing comfort. And yet every morning he had to wrestle with a familiar enemy, just like we do, the urge to stay in bed for 5 more minutes. And he wrote, "We were not born to cuddle under warm blankets, but to do the work of a human being." At first glance, it sounds simple, but behind it lies an entire philosophy of life. Marcus was reminding himself and us that we were not born to maximize comfort. We were born to fulfill the duties of a human being, to ourselves, to our work, and to those around us. His mornings were not some glamorous morning routine to show off online. He journaled not for anyone else to read, but to examine himself. How did I live yesterday? What do I need to correct today? He studied philosophy to train his mind before stepping onto the real battlefield of life. Then came a heavy chain of responsibilities, meetings, trials, leading armies, and handling state affairs. The message is obvious. Don't hide under the blanket. Don't let comfort decide your destiny. The moment you hit snooze, scroll your phone, and pull the blanket over yourself again. It seems harmless. But it is precisely those small choices, repeated day after day, that quietly decide what kind of person you will become. You don't need to be an emperor to understand this lesson. You just need to ask yourself each morning honestly, today, what is actually running my life? Is it my ideals, my duties, my discipline, or just my bed and my laziness? The answer is not in what you say, but in what you do in the first 5 minutes after you wake up. Once you've defeated the bed, stepped out of your comfort zone, and started to live with more discipline, you'll discover another, even more complicated truth. Life does not become less harsh because of it. Discipline doesn't make the road smoother, it only makes you strong enough to keep walking when the road starts getting rough. And this is where Marcus Aurelius's third lesson appears. Obstacle is the way. Marcus's life was anything but easy. He was not a philosopher sitting in a warm room writing beautiful words on paper. He lived amid war, plague, political schemes, and the loss of his own children. In the midst of all that chaos, Marcus arrived at a seemingly paradoxical insight. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. We cannot control the people who block our path, the plans that fall apart, the weather that ruins everything, the projects that collapse despite our best efforts. But what we always own is the right to choose our response. We can complain, blame, give up, or we can see it as a test that fate has sent to know whether we are truly as strong as we think we are. Through the Stoic lens, obstacles are not just things to get over with. They are the gym of the soul, where we train endurance, patience, courage, and the ability to create a new path when the old one is closed. Muscles only grow when challenged by weight. Character grows the same way, only when it is forced to face adversity. So the critical question is no longer, how can I make life less hard? The real question is, how will I grow from these very hardships? Every time life throws a stone at you, you can either clutch it to your chest and complain, or use it to build another step upward for yourself. And often the very paths you once hated, the ones you wished were easier, quietly become the places that forge a much stronger version of you later on. Once you begin to see obstacles as a gym for the soul, you'll notice something else. Not all hardships come from the outside. There is a quieter kind of obstacle, one that destroys life just as effectively as war or crisis. That obstacle is procrastination. Marcus said to himself and to us, "You could be good today. Instead, you choose tomorrow." It sounds gentle, but it is a brutally honest accusation. Procrastination is not just about, tomorrow I'll go to the gym, tomorrow I'll study English, tomorrow I'll start the project. Procrastination is far more subtle than that. Tomorrow I'll apologize. Tomorrow I'll say thank you. Tomorrow I'll be a little kinder. We keep promising ourselves, when I have time, later, when things calm down. But Marcus points out a cold truth. The problem isn't someday. The problem is, if you don't do it today, chances are you won't do it tomorrow either. Stoics don't romanticize action. They don't ask you to be a hero or change the world in a day. They ask for something far more ordinary, yet extraordinarily difficult. Do it now, even if it's the smallest thing. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait until you feel ready. Because if you let your feelings decide, your feelings will always find a reason to delay. There will always be something to do, something to worry about, something that lets you say, let's put it off for now. From the Stoic perspective, the true worth of a person is not found in the beautiful intentions in their mind, but in the small actions repeated daily, even when no one is watching. You don't act for the reward, for the likes, or for people to say, you're amazing. You act for a reason far deeper than that. Because at your core, you want to be the kind of person who does the right thing, even when it's hard, even when no one is clapping. And the question Marcus leaves us with today is straightforward. Among all the things you keep telling yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, is there one thing you can start right after you finish this video? Once you dare to start today, no longer hiding behind the words, maybe tomorrow, another question appears. Am I acting only for myself or for the people around me as well? Here, Marcus Aurelius gives us a powerful and very rarest example of what leadership truly means. During the Antonine Plague, which lasted for more than a decade, the Roman Empire fell into crisis. The economy collapsed. Cities were steeped in grief. Dead bodies lay along the streets. In a situation like that, an emperor could easily have locked the palace gates, lived behind thick walls, and insulated himself from the suffering of his people. But Marcus did not choose to hide. He did not blame fate, or his officials, or previous rulers. Instead, he did something almost absurd for an emperor. He walked through the palace, marking items to be sold, jewelry, garments, the royal family's luxury possessions. The purpose was obvious, to raise funds for the empire. But what mattered even more was the message: I will not live off the suffering of my people. That is the image of a CEO cutting their own salary before having to lay off employees. A commander eating after his soldiers, sitting in the sun so they can sit in the shade. From the Stoic perspective, leadership is not a privilege to enjoy more than others. It is the position from which you choose to endure hardship first, sacrifice first, and take responsibility first. And the interesting thing is this: you don't need a title, a position, or the word leader next to your name to step into this lesson. Because at some level, everyone is a guide for someone else. Parents for their children, older siblings for the younger ones. The more experienced person in a group is for the newcomer. The question Marcus stirs up in us is painfully ordinary. Within your small sphere, your family, your circle of friends, your co-workers, are you using your position to be served or to serve? Every time you put your own benefit above everything else, you are choosing a leadership style driven by ego. Every time you dare to take the more challenging part, to accept the short end so that others suffer a little less, you are living closer to the model of leadership that Stoic philosophy honors. When we talk about leadership, about being willing to sacrifice so others may suffer less, we easily assume the biggest enemy is some external crisis: pandemics, war, economic collapse. But if we look deeper, Marcus shows us an enemy far more silent and far more dangerous. It isn't out on the streets, it lives inside our own mind: anxiety. Marcus did not speak about anxiety from a soft chair in a comfortable life. He lost children, went through war, endured illness, tasted uncertainty in full. And yet, in the midst of all that, he wrote, "Today I escaped from anxiety. No, I discarded it, because it was within me." This is where Stoic philosophy cuts very straight and very deep. The Stoics do not deny pain, and they don't say, "There's nothing to worry about." They simply point out a hard truth. Events out there do not create anxiety by themselves. We are the ones who add expectations, stories, and dark scenarios on top of them. We worry because we want everything to go exactly as we want. We worry because we cannot bear the idea that the future might unfold differently from the plan we drew. We worry because we forget one very hard-to-swallow fact: we actually control far less than we like to believe. The Stoics don't teach us to reduce anxiety by controlling everything. They teach us to loosen our illusion of controlling the future, not to give up or be passive, but to do our very best in what is truly ours to do, and accept that the rest does not belong to us. They pull us back into the present, the only place where we can actually do something. Marcus seems to whisper, "My child is coughing, but right now he is still here with me." In that moment, we can hold our child, take care of him, love him, do everything within our power. As for how the illness will progress, how fate will unfold, we cannot control that, and the more we try to prevent it, the more we exhaust ourselves in anxiety. Facing anxiety in the Stoic spirit is not about becoming numb, but about learning how to stand firm in uncertainty. The heart still feels pain, but you no longer let fear run your entire life. Once we recognize that our greatest enemy is the anxiety within, we begin to see another front line that is just as intense: the difficult people outside. We can practice letting go, practice accepting what we cannot control, right up until we meet someone insulting, selfish, or ungrateful. And suddenly all the philosophy we've read seems to evaporate. Here Marcus Aurelius gives us a very clear-eyed view of human beings. He opens Book 2 of Meditations with a painfully familiar scene. When you wake up in the morning, remind yourself that the people you meet will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and rude. It sounds pessimistic, but in reality, Marcus is simply being honest. He does not sugarcoat life. He reminds himself and reminds us, do not be surprised when the world is ugly. Do not be shocked when you meet selfish, petty, or malicious people. Because the more we cling to the illusion that everyone should be kind, the more easily we shatter when reality doesn't match that picture. But the most crucial point is this. We must not let other people's ugliness drag us down and turn us into the same kind of person. Someone is rude, we explode and curse back. In the end, how are we any different from them? Someone lies to us. We retaliate by lying even more cleverly. Then where exactly is the line between them and them? The Stoics see difficult people as living moral exams that life sends us every day. Faced with injustice, we train fairness. Faced with rudeness, we train to stay calm. Faced with selfishness, we train generosity of spirit. If everyone were kind, understanding, and decent, it would be very easy for us to say, "I'm a good person." Only when we collide with those who irritate us, hurt us, make us feel insulted, do we really see how far we've actually gone on the path of self-mastery. From a Stoic perspective, every time we meet someone hard to bear, we have two choices. Either let them pull us down to their level, or see them as a mirror to examine ourselves, as a more strenuous exercise that allows us to grow stronger. The question is, do you want to become a product of the bitterness around you? Or become living proof that in the midst of a chaotic world, are there still people who choose to remain kind to the very end?